Welcome everybody to Web Geoservices' first India Google Maps and Location Intelligence webinar. Just whilst we're waiting for the last few people to join, I just want to say we're really thrilled to have you as part of this session today. Today's subject is a subject very close in the heart and minds of all of us. The pandemic itself is something that is affected everybody, in fact. And I think I speak on behalf of everyone at Web Geoservices here today that we hope that your friends and family are doing very, very well, as well as yourselves. You can see on your screen I've got two very good friends and expert panelists joining me today. Gaurav Bansal is the head of Google Maps India, joining out of Gurgaon in Delhi. And then I have Ketan Sangvi, based normally in Worli, Mumbai. And then there's me in the middle. I'm currently locked down with my family in London, hoping to return back to India as soon as I can. But yeah, really, really thrilled for you to join us today. Just a bit of housekeeping before we kind of move ahead. I'll be handing the mic to Gaurav first of all. But we do have a Q&A lined up, and you can see it within the Zoom function at the bottom, I believe. If you can drop your questions into that as we move along, that would be great. What we'll try and do is, between us as panelists, guys, if we can answer those questions either live or save them, park them until the end of the session, we'll use those as a way to guide us through the session today. What I'd like to do now first is, if we're all good for time, I'm just checking that we've got people on the call. It's looking good. So, Gaurav, what I'm going to do is going to hand you control of the slides within the Zoom function, so you'll be able to control what you see on the screen. Gaurav, can you just try that first of all? Is that working for you? If you were to go onto the Zoom link. You got it? I think you've got control now. And you're just on mute. You're just on mute, Gaurav. Gaurav, you're just on mute right now. Are you going to present? Are you happy to present? Just bear with us, guys. Gaurav, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me okay now?
Yes, you're back. That's perfect.
Okay, perfect. So can I have the control back?
Sure thing, yeah. I've got two Gauravs to assign it to. I'm hoping that's the right one.
I exited, so probably have my full name. Yes, I'm able to move these. The slide control is with me now?
It's with you, yeah.
Okay, let me try.
If not, I can do it for you. That's not a problem.
Yeah, probably. I don't think I'm able to move these slides for some reason. Why don't I take your help for that?
Okay, sure. Go for it.
All right. So should we kick it off?
Please, yeah, Gaurav, you go ahead. And if we can't, if you need to add more time, please, to your session, to your
Okay,
section, go ahead. Yeah.
no problem. So I'll try to be swift. I'll try to do it in 10 minutes, as Raman mentioned. So hi everyone. Hello again. Guessing most of you are probably dialing from India. So good afternoon to you. Beautiful weather here in Delhi. We got a little bit of rainfall, some respite from the weather. Mumbai also, I think, got its share of monsoon. So um, I hope that's bringing some smile on everyone's face. So we'll probably start with a very nice picture, which uh, would have asked you to take a guess what this means for you. And uh, this really represents the very first map that we ever saw, more popularly known as the Babylonian map, dates back to 6th century BC, which means we've been talking about mapping solutions for thousands of years now. But that's not what I'm here for. I would probably not be having enough time to talk through the thousands of years. But if you can go to the next slide, we'd focus on what we have for you from the last 15 years. And that's exactly where Google Maps platform was born. And I think some of us have been using this product. But before we go deep dive into what Google Maps platform has to offer, I would like to speak to you about the importance of location intelligence. And that's where we go to the next slide. So it is important for us to understand how the world around us is changing, the role that data has started playing in the lives of all businesses, all of us as consumers. A very interesting study recently done by Forbes indicated how most of the data that we consumed uh, was born in the last 2 years and has already a location component or will have a location component very soon. Add to this, the number of IoT devices is increasing, and it forecasts that by the year 2025, there will be on an average about 6 IoT device per human being. Now beat that. Imagine the amount of data that these devices will be generating, and most of it will have a location component. It only goes to reinforce the importance of having geolocation strategy in mind as you think about your organizations, your functions, your businesses. Next slide, please. So I'd like you to reflect on the roles that you play in your organization, the companies that you come from, the functions that you represent. And it is likely that you are probably doing one of the three things, or probably all the three. You must be either working towards improving your customer experience that you have to offer, or you are probably looking at a project or an initiative which will optimize the way you work, optimize your company's operations. Could be field force, could be staff, could be the way you deliver your products. And last but not the least, probably you're somewhere involved in taking a strategic decisions. The decisions could vary from where should I open my next store, where should I be running my next marketing campaign, was my last marketing campaign effective, how should I be driving loyalty bonuses to my customers, where should I open my next ATM, where should I open my next branch. If the answer to any of these questions is yes, even if it is just one of them, then Google Maps probably is something that can help you achieve your business objectives. And I'd let Ketan and Raman talk through some of these use cases in more detail as we walk through these slides. Having understood why location intelligence is important, I'd like to spend a few minutes with you on why we'd like you to consider Google Maps platform as a platform of your choice. And when we speak to our existing customers, a very common feedback that we hear from all of them is that the first thing on their mind is that what they need when they look at a location intelligence platform is something which gives them real-time data and accurate data. And that's exactly where Google Maps comes in. We do about 25 million updates a day to make sure that this data is always fresh for you. And how do we make sure this data is always not just fresh, but always rich? You are able to see the world around you as it changes, and it is changing at such a fast pace We do this by various means, right? We use satellite imagery, we use data from Android phones, we use what we call as feet on street, which powers a lot of local rich information feeds back into our Google Maps platform, making sure that your information is always rich and updated. The third reason we hear from our customers, and this is a point which is often forgotten, a very soft but very important point, is that when you are building an interface, when you are building an UI, you want to have a platform which your end customers are familiar with, not just familiar with, but just love using it. And that's exactly where Google Maps comes into picture. This is a platform which is used by over a billion users across the globe, something that they are familiar with, they're comfortable with, they just love using. Many of us probably work in organizations which may be local. We may represent Indian organizations, but I think the world around us is becoming more and more global. We may be dealing with suppliers, partners who are global in nature, and hence many of our customers want a location intelligence platform which works seamlessly well, not just in India, but for any country outside of India as well, as companies look to expand. And that's exactly where Google Maps helps, because we've pretty much mapped out the entire world. It works in most of the languages, except for a few countries which where there are political restrictions. Almost the entire world has been mapped out. Hence, not a surprise that small and big companies alike, startups and Fortune 500 companies alike, happen to be our Google Maps customers, and the list continues to grow. So one of the big myths which we hear often in different webinars is that how Google Maps is more relevant or suited for small or large organization, and neither of those two statements are true, because it works seamlessly and equally well irrespective of the size or the scale of the organization that you are, irrespective of the vertical that you may be coming from. There is a problem that Google Maps can fundamentally solve for you. And which is why we launched a platform, a product, or a solution which is very simple to consume. All the intelligence and technology goes behind, and what you really see in front of yourself are three oversimplified use cases. So you could be looking at mapping the world around you, or you could be solving a problem for moving man or material from point A to point B, or you could be looking at how should you make the points of interest information around you more rich for you to be taking more meaningful business decisions. And all these three product offerings of ours are powered by 18 very rich and strong APIs that power these three broad use cases. What we also wanted to make sure when we were thinking about our product platform is we wanted to work seamlessly well with our other products. So some of you who probably are already using our Cloud Console or are probably considering to use Cloud Console, it works seamlessly well. It is a single console. We also wanted to offer more flexibility and scalability to the organization. So rather than asking anyone to really commit for a dollar number for the full year, the model offers you the flexibility to only pay for what you consume, and you have the choice to scale up, scale down, choice to run pilots, choice to decide what API you want to consume or not want to consume. And that's exactly the flexibility and scalability which is enjoyed by startups as much as it is enjoyed by large companies, because guess what, we stay in a dynamic world and the world around us changes very fast, and that's the flexibility that the model offers to you. What you see in front of you, sort of in the spirit of full transparency, is sort of a cost sheet or a price sheet, if you may, what it indicates to you is that our commercial model is based on volumes of API calls that you make. So the first column represents the type of API calls, and the subsequent columns represent the volume of API calls that you would be making. And as you probably can see from the first two columns, let's take an example of Embed Advanced API. A $14 API call becomes $11.20 for the next volume range. So as and when you keep growing, your business keeps scaling, and as and when you use more and more APIs, you automatically start getting the volume discounts. And it is amongst many other benefits, as for this case, that our partners come in very handy because they are able to unlock for you various other volume tiers, which are currently hidden for obvious sensitivity reasons. But that was just to give you a flavor of how the commercial model works. So I'm coming towards the sort of end of my presentation. I just wanted to leave you with some of the recent updates, some of the recent launches, and to also inspire you a little bit on what's ahead in store. So uh, Google Maps is great, but we still want to become better at what we do. So what we continue to do is get a lot of feedback from our clients from different verticals and industries, and keep launching different features or new product offerings within Maps. The first such example is something which is known as local context. It is very relevant for companies in the hospitality space, for the real estate space, and new use cases. We continue to learn new use cases ourselves. We are in conversation with an electric vehicle charging station company who plans to use local context. So what it really does is it helps you imagine the world around you and helps your consumer to make a decision rather smooth and swift. It solves what is conventionally known as the two-window problem. So think of yourself as a travel company or travel portal, and your consumer is always looking at what are the nearby restaurants around me, what is the travel distance, what is the direction before he or she makes a hotel booking. So this platform, this product enables exactly that. So some of the other cool features. There's another thing called maps customization. We learned from many of our customers that they were spending a lot of time, trying to work on colors, fonts, styling of the maps. And we said that why don't we take that problem away from our clients and let them focus on doing what they are really good at? And this feature exactly enables that you don't have to worry too much about how to custom style your map. And this feature lets you exactly do that. Very interesting and new use case around the world of gaming. If some of you are gamers yourself, you'll probably be able to appreciate that uh, you can you want to really see the world not as fiction, but in the today's world of augmented reality and virtual reality, you want to really see the world in front of you. Um, Pokemon Go was a big hit, if you remember, right? Everybody wants to play a game which is closer to what the world represents in front of you. And Google Maps lets you do exactly that. It sort of is able to replicate, and the use cases are endless, right? One can argue. Uh, let's take an example of a exercise bicycling company which lets you compete with each other. You could be connected across the globe, and it lets you choose the landscape that you want to run your bicycle on while you're sitting in the gym. Could be another very interesting use case that this could be extended to. Without leaving your room, you're running your bicycle, and you could choose be running it next to the Eiffel Tower, or you could be running next to a nice mountain landscape. The choice is yours. This is one of my personal favorites. In India, we are all aware the challenges that we face with respect to uh, the quality of addresses, the inaccurate addresses, the inconsistency of addresses. And to solve exactly this problem, we launched what is known as plus codes. Very simply put, it it gives the language and definition of an address to every building across the country. So hopefully no more neem ka ped naale ke piche gali ke niche, and it gives a little more scientific alphanumeric code to every building, and it works seamlessly well with autocomplete, places, details, APIs, etc. Uh, the last slide is around how COVID impacted all of us, and many of our customers really wanted to know. Think of a Pepsi or a Coke wanting to sell to different retailers. They wanted to know whether this commercial establishment is permanently closed or temporarily closed. A feature which is enabled by Places API. So we enabled this additional functionality so that now they can exactly know whether this is a temporary closure owing to COVID or this is a permanent closure. So this is not the end. We continue to invest. And as we look ahead, what are some of the big bets that we are making? We are specifically focused around three big areas, and it's still a work in progress, but I still wanted to share with you that solving a lot of problems in the logistics space, ride sharing space, delivery space, right? How in India we have different vehicle types, different vehicle sizes, how city conditions don't allow a vehicle to enter a certain road, certain city at different timings. How do we solve for all of that using Google Maps? So there's a lot of work which is going on in this area. More for this to follow. Can we do something more? Absolutely. The possibilities are endless. So keep your feedback flowing. Please do continue to tell us how we can improve, and we are all ears. So with this, sort of my presentation comes to an end. And as I had mentioned that our Maps licenses are commercially enabled through WGS as our partners, who are not just resellers, but they are an amazing technology company with a lot of established credibility in Europe. They're one of our top partners, recently started working in India. So they can not only make the Maps APIs available to you, they can also help you build the entire technology stack to really help you focus on what you do best and leave all your location intelligence worries behind and let WGS take care with all of those. So with this, I will sort of hand over to Raman to take on. Thank you, everyone, and stay healthy.
Cheers, Gaurav. That was awesome. That was Gaurav Bansal from Google Maps. It was, I think to kind of switch gears, and hey, everyone, it's Raman again. We'll just move to sort of part 2 of today's session. I can see a few people have started asking some questions in the Q&A, which is great. So please do keep that coming through. Just to switch gears slightly moving forward then, I'll be joined by Gaitan Sangvi in about five minutes time. And the next part of this section is actually going to build on Gaurav's first part. And it's more to kind of apply the real life applications for Google Maps in the real world. And we'll do this in a few ways. I will first introduce Web Geoservices as an organization, and Gaurav alluded to this point just now. We are a full service maps partner, and we can enable location intelligence in your business. But we'll apply this with what we're doing with real life customer examples. And then most importantly, in a post-COVID setting, is kind of applying the why as to why it's so important. What are businesses currently doing now? What are businesses doing in the future, et cetera, et cetera. But first, just to sort of keep it high level, just to introduce Web Geoservices as an organization. So we're a team of 60 people and growing. We have a team of experts, which is continually, this slide is always out of date within a few months. But at the minute we partnered with Google for over a decade now, and we've just recently launched our India office at the start of the year, at the start of 2020. We're absolutely thrilled to be part of India's amazing growth curve for the future. As part of our 10-year tenancy with Google, we've helped to build award-winning geolocation projects, which are really redefining now the industry, in terms of how people use location intelligence in business, what customers are doing in particular, how does B2B2C work in a location intelligence context, et cetera, et cetera. So what exactly do we do? So, I actually do get this question asked a lot, aside from Google's amazing product family in terms of their cloud stack, what makes us different, from just being a reseller? And, Gaurav did mention this. Well, aside from just reselling Google Maps as a product, so you can buy and invoice maps through us, which is great. We ourselves are a team, of course, of 60 location experts, incredibly passionate about what we do. But aside from just being able to build for Google Maps, we can actually aid in the deployment of maps themselves, run health checks to ensure that your maps are running properly, use our award-winning best-in-class consultants to actually do maybe code checks to ensure that your maps are running in the most optimized fashion. And this comes at no additional cost. So aside from the volume discounts that Google offer as part of our Premier Partner status, and that status is something that is actually quite to maintain that, it does take a lot of work for us. But In order to keep that and offer you discounts, we can offer this for no additional cost as well. You've got to see WebGeo services more as a kind of an extension of your development team. You know, a sort of a second pair of eyes to ensure that you're maximizing the most out of the platform. What else makes us different, and it's really important, over the past, let's say, decade as well, we've also come up with a sort of distillation, or we've actually taken a lot of the problems that our customers have, and the byproduct of all those problems we fueled into our platform WooZmap, which itself is a geolocation platform. A lot of our customers, and I'll come on to some of the amazing customers that we partner with on this platform, but a lot of our customers use WooZmap as a way to go to market faster, to improve their business intelligence, improve their online conversions, have a better connection with their customer, etc., etc. Ideally, optimizing the connection you have with your customers, especially in a post-COVID setting, is super, super important right now. So who are our amazing customers? Who are the type of people that we work with? You know, we're very, very lucky and incredibly fortunate to partner with so many amazing brands. You know, we're starting to see a lot of patterns emerging in India as well. Some of the key problems that exist in India, we've already seen in other parts of the world, and some of the problems that, you know, India has right now are unique, and we're actually using that as learnings in other places. So as an organization, we are really starting to extrapolate this problem. Especially around COVID-19 and what this pandemic is doing to enable businesses to pivot. So, Geetan, I'll be moving over to Geetan very, very shortly. But in terms of, we call it the digital recovery with location intelligence. How can organizations use location intelligence as an enabler, right? You know, how do you reduce buying anxiety? How do you reduce the amount of friction online in your journeys, for instance? Well, one of the main ways is using the Google database, as incredibly rich as it is. You know, it's 500 million points of interest and counting, and I'm sure that number will be out of date by tomorrow. How can you layer on business-specific intelligence with a Google Maps technology and apply this to all of your assets, to all of your locations across the market, across the region? How can you look at Google Maps technologies and overlay potentially new data to understand if you can expand to a region, or maybe assessing the suitability of a new store in terms of demographic data and so on and so forth. Next one is buying anxiety. You know, at the minute, COVID-19 and myself included, is right now I don't really feel like having too much face-to-face or contact with other people. How can you, improve contactless home deliveries, for example? How do you reduce the amount of friction involved with providing that and using location intelligence to harness it? You know, right now is a sort of right now people are trying to keep costs down whilst maintaining revenue, but also offering new ways to be connected with the consumer. And I think that this is an important topic which Gaurav will cover off in a minute. Supply chain, also important. And it's not just retail, of course. You've got logistics as well. You've got restaurants. You've got the movement of people and goods. How do we maximize the delivery workers' day? You know, how do we avoid potentially high-risk COVID areas? How could we enable them to have a better connection with their customers so they know that where they're going? Well, again, Google Maps can cover this. Click and collect. I think this is very specific for e-commerce and retail. We've got a number of different stats, but if you don't have a click and collect strategy right now, you are leaving revenue on the table. A very slick, a very smooth customer journey is super, super important in a time like this. And offering customers the ability to pick up an item within a few hours, again, is another way to enable new sales. Better address capture. So, we've seen that 30% of deliveries in India do not make it the first time. And of a percentage of those as well are then enabled as returns. You know, how do we maximize the first delivery choice for your customer? How do we ensure that that particular good or service that you've delivered to them is right the very first time? How do we then not disrupt the supply chain moving forward to ensure that you are making the returns that you should be? And then the final topic is curbside pickup. You know, this is a really important one. It's a new enabler we found, and then there is a sort of a very key location offering, which Gaurav will talk about in a very, very quick second. But how do we enable contactless pickup without the need for people to make unnecessary contact with people? How do we reduce the buying anxiety involved with offering goods and services? That being said, I want to invite Gaten to the conversation now, my good friend. Gaten, how would you like to do this? Would you like me to control the slides, or shall I give you access?
If you give me access, that'll be cool. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, try that. That should be activated on your side.
Yep, it is. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I know webinars, there are a lot of them going around, so I do appreciate you joining us today. What I'm going to do is really, there are so many use cases with location intelligence and Google Maps. It's practically impossible to touch on all of them. The idea is, looking at the audience we have today, I'm going to touch upon 4 use cases with the intent that maybe there is something in here you could directly consider adopting for your solution or your business, or it will ignite some thoughts or trigger an action to say, maybe we could use location in a certain way. Because as Raman explained, the possibility of, what Google Maps can do as an enabler is huge. It's something that should be considered proactively, especially in a post-COVID world that we are talking about. So first, just some data, very interesting data points, right? So this is from Google Trends. On the search bar, ATMs near me, pizza restaurants near me, mobile stores near me, these kind of searches have been increasing, and they're increasing exponentially. And then the other bit of data is that there is a clear correlation between your location and a local search and your spend. And that amount is significant, as you can see here. So how did we use this? I'm going to illustrate with an example from one of our customers in France called Boulanger. They approached us a few years ago when they were reinventing their checkout process. There was a lot of cart abandonment and friction in their whole shopping experience, and they were looking at what can we do better. And we advised them on the whole location piece. So think of it here as, in this first part, I've selected a laptop, and then as I scroll down further, there is a queue. It's showing me directly, without me leaving that same screen, that this is available today for pickup anytime after 11 a.m. at a store really near to me. Or I still have an option to have it delivered. It's showing Wednesday, 8 July, because the screenshot was from last week. So if it was today, I'm actually going to see delivery sometime, the weekend. So you can imagine that, very seamlessly, this is kind of a soft cue for a customer to make a choice now that I can pick it up. And how is this achieved? It's a clever use of our Wooz Map platform and Google Maps. So we use the geolocation APIs to figure out where the user is, whether he's on his mobile or on a desktop. We are able to kind of determine where he is, and then we tie it in with the inventory of the stores and start showing this directly. Very simple to look at it, but huge results. What Boulanger saw was a 15% uptake in click and collect orders and almost a 5% reduction in cart abandonments. So very, very powerful to start doing things like this. I can see that this is already there on many websites, but it can be optimized because there are too many screens. There are pop-ups showing your nearest location, etc. So if you have any ideas on how to implement this, we should, we can definitely advise. Moving on is, once the person has, your customer has bought the goods, what next? The journey doesn't end, and it's very important to manage both the scenarios. One is the customer coming to you, and the other is you going to the customer. Now, when the customer is coming to you, the last thing you want is he comes to you and then he has to wait even 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And especially in a COVID scenario, you want it to be, quick. The person doesn't want to be around too many people. How can you do this? Think of it as an Uber and passenger relationship. The store can see the customer approaching they can get notifications to know what was ordered. They'll make sure that those goods are packed and ready. And as the customer comes closer, someone is alerted. Customer gets alerted through apps that John Doe will come and receive you at curb point number 4. So there's a lot of things to be done here, but if you do this well, the outcome is again huge. You know, it kind of will, customers will start trusting your brand more, and it will trigger repeat buys of your product. To enable this, again, directions APIs, the Google Maps, whatever you have seen in the Uber, the same things, very quick and easy implementations of this. And then on the other side, you have you going to the customer. So, you know, as a company, you can start building your own delivery apps or partnering with third-party logistics companies, but putting in all these kind of communication parameters, which make it simple for consumers to know where your product is, and for you to optimize deliveries. We have, you know, Big Basket, everyone's heard of here. They are a Google Maps platform user. They've really scaled their business on the Google Maps platform. Over 15 million deliveries done so far. Most of the delivery SLAs are, can it be delivered in an hour? And 4 million plus customers. So something like this can be enabled only through a, you know, all the APIs which are easily available out of the box with the GMP. And to back up these two use cases, I just wanted to share some interesting data from Sainsbury, again, a client who's based in the UK, large grocery chain. Post-COVID, they are seeing a change, right? What is the change? 7% to 17% jumps, 2.5 times in just their online deliveries. And the click and collect, 13x. These numbers are pretty mind-blowing if you think about it. Very quickly, in 2-3 months, this has happened. And they are investing to back this up in their plan. They are adding 180 plus new locations just for improving the click and collect experience and increasing their ground staff to make that happen. So this is a sign for you to think through what can you do in terms of adapting your businesses if you have a lot of physical stores. Switching gears, I'm going to move to something else, which, you know, you may be a chain or you may be a business which doesn't have multiple stores. But if you are an e-commerce site, if you are a bank, if you are a company accepting, you know, orders for food delivery, all of, you know, capturing an address is just basic. The issue today is it's kind of neglected. It's neglected because, take this example, right? On the left, I have a standard address field, typical on most e-commerce sites. There are 6 inputs over here, 6 fields to enter. Now, what if you just use the Google autocomplete? As you've been, you know, you've seen it, you use it in Google Maps. You start entering the text in one search, in one box, in one text field. It auto-completes it for you. And in 6 characters, you save the efforts of 6 input fields. What this does is, again, dramatic, right? It cuts the checkout time by almost half. And in terms of cart abandonment, again, completely reduces the friction. We are seeing this data, 2 out of 3 users abandon their carts. By doing this, you're reducing friction. And what else can be done with this? A small thing like showing a thumbnail with the map and the position validates for the user where the address is. So this is achieved by using the geocoding APIs of Google, which can convert a physical address into a lat long. Why this is important is because imagine then this data was sent to the shipping company who's delivering for you. This will maximize their first time deliveries. So it's, you know, for you, possibly reducing costs and returns, and 2, winning trust with the customer. So this is something, this is a low hanging fruit. If you're not doing this, it really, it's like a 1-day or a 2-day job to integrate this into your sites. I would really urge you to consider adding autocomplete to your website. Just checking how we are doing for time. I'm on my last slide, so won't take long now. Coming back again, we know the power of near me, and we are seeing that when people are looking for stores nearby, there's a lot of information they need. And this information, you've seen it, typically you go to Google Maps, but there's an opportunity for you to own that whole experience on your site, right? By really building smart store locators. What is a store locator? It's a page on your website or on your mobile app. Many companies already have it, but if it's not done, leaving money on the table. And let me explain why. Here, there are three screens. One is of a gas station chain in France. It could be anywhere else in the world. But you're giving a user a choice when he's looking for something, that show me something with an electric charging point, or show me something with a restaurant. And there are quick filters immediately on the map which bring that to you. Two, you can make the map very, very interactive. So for example, I'm selecting a hotel, very much like the Airbnb experience. I can show photographs without leaving the map. I can start showing directions to get there. I can switch to street view. I can even integrate with third party, like a TripAdvisor, to show relevant data. What this is doing is ensuring stickiness on your website. Someone is staying longer on your site, which always helps with conversions, rather than the two-window problem that Gaurav spoke about of leaving your site, going to Google Maps, looking for stuff. So you put everything in there. And we saw this as a problem quite a while ago. And what we did as WooZmap is built a JavaScript widget, which is a few lines of code, plug and play, plug it into your website, and you can completely control this experience. Add your own themes, make it mobile friendly, get the data back in milliseconds. Everything happens behind the scenes. You could, want to change the opening and closing timings during holiday seasons for 500 stores. It's done in an instant through the platform. So a lot of advantages here. And then there is one, which no one really thinks about, but is very important. Imagine you're a business with hundreds of branches. Once you have that branch data on your site, it can help with your search engine optimization as well. So if your business has over 20 plus outlets, dealerships, it's probably time to consider an optimized store locator, because I've seen how it's currently being done, and I think we can really help you go up many notches with that very quickly, very efficiently. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Raman. The idea, like I said, my intent was I can't cover all the use cases, but the idea was, I hope I've been able to trigger some thoughts about how location intelligence can be adapted for your business.
Over to you, Raman. I can just quickly add in, Ketan, we understand that many of you represent different industries. So it was not possible for us to probably touch upon every industry, every use case. The idea was to ignite some interest. So we will have 15 minutes, and Raman will walk you through the process of maybe asking questions. But yeah, happy to do more one-on-one workshops, separate discussions. We understand that some of the discussions may be confidential in nature, so happy to connect separately as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. So we'll be sending this deck after this this call. So one of the first questions I can see here is, will this deck be available? Yes. The answer is yes. Just to build on what Gaurav has mentioned, if there are themes from today that you guys would like to take in a more in-depth discussion, as Gaurav mentioned, we can do a workshop. So happy to take that offline. Just to look at a couple of questions, some really good ones have come through. Let's have a look here. Gaurav, I think this is a good one for you. Someone's asked this, and we actually get this a lot during webinars. What's the data quality like for Google Maps in India?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for asking this question. So there is no quantitative number that I can provide, which sort of gives you an indicator of quality. But the only thing I can say is this is probably as good as it gets. And we are continuously in a state of trying to improve ourselves. What we hear from our customers is the data quality, as expected, probably is better in metros and tier 1, tier 2 cities, and tier 3 cities and villages, the quality reduces a little bit, but then it is probably still better than what you'd probably find from other sources. And features like plus codes, etc., helps you bridge that gap wherever there is a little bit of inaccuracy. And then let's talk about your industry, your use case, because if your use case is address cleansing, you're not getting clean addresses, or if your use case is collecting KYC documents and you are not sure of the data quality, then let's work with WGS to, look at a solution which works for your company.
Great. Yeah. Gaten, anything to add on that, or you think that's well covered?
Yeah, I think it's covered. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, then I think one for you, Gaten. This is again a really good question. I think you mentioned a few verticals which has triggered this question, but someone's asking about how. Yeah, just reading it again. How varied are the use cases that you mentioned in terms of Google Maps? And are they agnostic depending on the industry? I think just to rephrase that question. So are the use cases that you mentioned today universal across each industry, or does it change?
No, very good question. So let's think of the different use cases, right? The first one was very much, targeted to retail and e-commerce, which is showing products nearby as part of your customer shopping experience. But then as we move forward, the next use cases about curbside pickup and even deliveries, there's a combination there where it can be used by logistics companies, food delivery platforms, and e-commerce companies. So there are various industries there. Last mile deliveries could use it. Even fleet management companies could use, so it may not be the same identical application as you see on the screen, but the underlying APIs, platform, etc., is the same. And then as you go forward is the address, I think, is very, very universal across. I think address capture is there in, KYC documents. Banks use them to validate customers. When you want to process a loan, when income tax departments, governments use them. So a good address capture is vital. I think this is a pretty universal use case. And then finally, if we talk of the next use case, the relevance is, I think, for a store locator, any business, but the condition here is, do you have more than, at least 20 or 30 stores? So it can apply to all the OTAs, the Yatras, Clear Trips, Make My Trips. It can apply to hotel chains. It can apply to banks. It can apply to retail stores. So that's where I see all these applications.
Sounds good. Sounds good. We've got someone's just asking about the click and collect use case. Perhaps we can just do a quick run of that again. Gaten, use case, I think it was 1. If we could just do another high level run through. Someone's just asking if we could just go through this use case and unpack it slightly again.
Sure, very quickly. So Boulanger, think of Boulanger as like a chroma. You've done your search, you've identified what you want to buy, you've looked at that you want to buy this laptop. There's a price. As you scroll, so what you're seeing in these two windows, the second window is, as if I had scrolled down and I saw what was available. So this part is really key. We are showing as a soft cue that you have a choice to pick this up from a store near you, and it's available. And then if you wanted to deep dive further, you could see it in other stores and by distance, etc. But the idea was not to take him away from the screen on the same shopping screen, whether it's on the mobile or the desktop, show the availability. So he makes an informed choice that I want convenience. I'm okay to wait 4 days, but let it come home. Or no, I need this laptop today because I've got stuff to do. I've got a webinar to attend. So let me go now and just pick it up. Now, so that's essentially what has been done. And behind the scenes, this has been achieved by using, one is there's a geolocation API, and then using that coupled with the distance matrix API, which allows us to measure the distance from your location and the distance to all the nearest stores. And then it integrates further with the CRM of the, the actual e-commerce company, which says, it will only show stores which have this in stock.
Yeah.
So it's very straightforward, but it's very, very effective.
Yeah, I think to build on that as well, when Boulanger did deploy this, I think Keaton mentioned earlier, but this is really a way to improve call to action in terms of add to basket. So when they deployed this, they said a sort of 15% add to basket increase, which actually led to a 3% increase in overall conversions from the PDP, the product detail page, which is what you can see here. So that was pretty staggering, and it's something they still use today. And we are seeing more and more of this moving forward. Let's have a look at some more questions here. With the rise in unstructured data, such as speech transcripts, briefings, social media posts, are you seeing the rise in the need of integration of text analytics and location intelligence by clients, and any use cases or case examples that we can share? So
I can take that.
Yes, please go ahead.
I can take that if you want. Yeah. So a good question, and yes, we are absolutely seeing convergence of data in a lot of formats. An example that I was alluding to was in the banking context. Before give a loan, there's a process of collecting KYC documents, and usually the documents which are submitted could vary from a driver's license to a passport. In a lot of cases, it is your land document. The language in these documents varies, the quality of handwritten notes varies, the picture of the person varies, and all this is solved using Vision API, Cloud's Vision API, and that sort of works very well with the location intelligence APIs to provide a robust solution. You could extend this logic to various sales optimization problems about wanting to look at data of historical sales performance in a certain store while making a decision of what the potential is for that store. So yeah, I mean, the cases continue to increase. Could be text, could be voice, could be social, could be the world around us. But yes, the common theme across all is location intelligence. So I mean, you can also extend this argument to ads, marketing alerts, geofencing. So yeah, it's a very good play with some of our cloud products and ad products as well to solve the problem that was mentioned in the question.
Yeah, it's a good question, that one. I have another good one. I think, Gaurav, it might be you and Keaton on this one. It's just regarding request optimization.
Yeah. I can go first, then I'll pass it on to Ketan. So the question is around.
Gaurav, let me say the question first, because the audience can't see it. So does WGS have a system for frequent requests to the Google Maps APIs? Can it be cached or stored? And can this save money? For example, this could be for locations which we are not changing that frequently. So yeah, good question. Gaurav, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it looks like it is coming from someone who has been using maps. So thanks for asking that question. So let me upfront begin by saying that there is a Google Maps caching policy that we all need to be aware of. It gives out guidelines on what information can be and cannot be cached and for how long. And the thinking behind that is, of course, we want all of our clients to be making their business decisions on data which is updated. And from that perspective, so for example, a place ID can be stored for a longer period. A lat long of a place could be stored for 30 days, etc. That said, WGS can help sort of look at which APIs are being called. Are you really calling the right APIs? Could you be achieving the same end objective by calling another set of APIs which are cheaper by themselves? Are you calling the APIs at the right frequency? So for example, if it's about locating the location of a truck driver and he's on a Delhi-Bombay route, and if the intention is to do a deviation analysis or the intention is to do a fuel reimbursement, the use cases are different. and hence the frequency at which you will be pinging the truck driver to find the location may vary. And WGS sort of can share with you a lot of best practices in your industry, which can help you optimize. So short answer to your question is yes, there are optimization tools and techniques and tips that WGS can share depending on what your problem is. But yeah, generally speaking, there is a guideline which Google lays down for the product's caching requirements.
Yeah, good answer. I think just to build on that, it's a lot of these optimizations will always be catered for different clients, and every client's back end or front end environment will change, and the use case independent of those environments will also be different. So to unpack all of those things and try and answer that question on this call, it usually will take a bit more of an understanding for web geo services and Google in combination to understand the use case involved and what needs to be done. But yeah, really good question. Yeah, please keep the questions coming in, guys. I've got a few more. I know we're 3 minutes to the hour. Someone's asking about Google Maps discounts. So I think we did address it partway through the call. Gaurav, or Keaton, if you wanted to jump in on are there discounts involved with Google Maps?
Yeah, so maybe we can just point to that slide once again, Raman, for everyone's benefit. The good news is that sort of Google as a company, we want to invest more and more of our time building great products, and so does WGS. And for doing that, we want to make sure that all the commercial discussions are already out of the way. And the way we've done that is by building all the discounts already into our pricing structure. So the example that I sort of spoke briefly about was, let's take distance matrix advanced API in sort of under routes, and you would see a $10 API pricing in the first bucket of 0 to 100,000 calls. And this $10 will become an $8 the moment your API calls go from 100 to 500,000. And as in when you keep moving up, the price keeps reducing. So which means your volume discounts keep getting unlocked as in when you keep moving up. And this is something that can be enabled through WGS. So short answer to the question is yes, discounts are available and they're already baked in. It's a function of the volumes that you're able to leverage.
Nice.
I'd like to add just one quick thing to this. Besides the discount, there is a free layer, which everyone, it's important to keep in mind. You get $200 worth of free credit. So any business who wants to try, do any POCs, it's absolutely free. You get close to, when you kind of look at these numbers, you'll get upwards of, 20,000 calls absolutely free every month. So it's a monthly credit. And even when you start using it, you get $200 worth of that credit. It's built in once you sign up with the Google Cloud Platform. And it's also built in whether you sign up with WebGeo or directly with Google, you get that $200 in. So nothing should, there's no hurdle there. Yeah.
And it's perennial. It's not like one time you continue to get it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we've got 1 more minute left, guys. I just wanted to spend the last maybe 30 seconds just to say thank you very much for your time today. Perhaps I'll stop sharing actually so you can see my face.
There's one last question from someone. Maybe we want to email that person separately, or you want to take it now. It'll need a little bit of a discussion. I don't think we can do it in 30 seconds.
Oh yes, I've just seen that. Yes. Okay, let's take that one. Let's take that one offline. We could take this person's details. So yeah, thank you very much, everybody. It was absolutely awesome to be doing this today. We are here, to answer any more questions that you have. Please do reach out to us. Perhaps I'll leave my contact details after this call. We really hope you take today's advice and we can move forward on this. There's loads of things that we can do with location intelligence, and India really is a hotbed of innovation right now. So we're super thrilled to be here. I think we're going to end the webinar there, guys. If anyone does want to say any last comments, please mention it in the Q&A. We'll stick around for a couple of minutes. Let me know. Otherwise, we really do hope to be working with you sometime soon.